When people use your brand name as a verb, that is remarkable. Meg Whitman. You have the power to be the boss of your own life. I'm your host, Monica Allen. I'm a wife, mom, entrepreneur, best-selling author, lifelong learner, and your biz bestie. I have a love and passion for all things small business. Growing my own company from $700 to over 7 figures annually, my goal is to bring you inspiration, business-focused topics and tips, encouragement, and a community that helps you launch, grow, and scale your business, whether you are a dreamer, a side hustler, or a seasoned entrepreneur. You are listening to the Become Your Own Boss podcast. I truly get excited when I have an opportunity to learn new things. And this past weekend, Ethan and I attended a conference. We attended PodFest, which is a conference that's specifically meant for podcasters or people who want to be podcasters. There were also creators there. It was just a really great conference. I learned a lot because I don't know a whole lot about podcasting. I got on this platform and decided that I wanted to put my voice out in the world because I feel like after 20 years of entrepreneurship, I have a lot of knowledge, and it does me no good to take that with me or to hold it to myself. So I wanted to share it with others, and I thought a podcast would be a great format in doing that. But I didn't know a whole lot about it when I jumped in, and I jumped in anyway. But as I go through it and I do it each week, I am learning, and this conference actually helped me learn even more about podcasting and different things that I can do to market the podcast and grow the podcast. So great conference. If you have an opportunity to attend conferences in your industry or around what you do, be sure to do that. But today we're jumping into Kickstart Your Business Part 3. This part of the series is called What's in a Name? Because if you have a business idea, if you've already started kind of working through your business, you started selling something, maybe not, but you have to have a name for your business. If you're going to do all of the registrations and all of the things to be a legit business, which we are going to talk about down the road, you actually have to have a name for your business. And I want to point out there's a difference between a brand and a business. Because, for example, we have a legal name for our business, and that is the name that we use on anything that has to do with our banking or any legalese when it comes to our business. However, we have brands under that business, and it's called a DBA or doing business as. And so those DBAs are Zeus's Closet and Stuff for Greeks for us. And so we build brands, but you do have to have a name for your business. And today we're going to talk about kind of intertwine them in both, because you really have to have a name, and your brand and your name of your business may be the same. We just kind of went about it in a weird way because it doesn't have to be that way. And you may find down the road that your business may pivot and change, and you may add a DBA to your business later. So let's talk about what makes a good name for your business and what are some considerations you need to take into account when you are deciding on naming your business. The first thing when it comes to selecting a name for your business is you want to make sure the business name is relevant to your offerings and is memorable for your audience. So our legal name is Allen Professional Graphics Group. Initially, when we started our business, we really were focused on the graphic services that we would provide. But we ended up going kind of a little bit of a different route and created Stuff for Greeks, which became a brand underneath the Allen Professional Graphics Group umbrella. Well, Stuff for Greeks is very, very clear. We sell stuff for Greeks. Now, most people understand that that's for fraternities and sororities here in the U.S., but I have run across some people who think we sell stuff for people who are from Greece. That's very few and far between, but we do occasionally run into that. The second thing is you want to make sure that your brand identity is in alignment with the message you want to convey. So your brand, your name should resonate with your target market. Now, Stuff for Greeks definitely resonates with our target market. It's very clear. When we went into naming our retail store, which is Zeus's Closet, We wanted to give an ode to Greeks, thus Zeus being a Greek god, but we did not want to pigeonhole ourselves into the fraternity and sorority market in our retail space, because we knew at some point we may want to dive into helping businesses and individuals and other organizations. So we didn't want to pigeonhole ourselves. And at one point we thought about changing stuff for Greeks to Zeus's Closet as well. But over time we had built such a name with that brand, we did not change it. The next thing you want to make sure you check on when it comes to your business name, let's say you've come up with an idea, you want to make sure you check to see if that domain name is available. Now, most of us will check the .com first because that is most common. I know that my hands will automatically, when I am typing a website, add a .com. Even if it's a .co or it can be a anything else, my fingers automatically type a .com. So if you can get the .com, that is great. But if you can't, then maybe .net, .us. It's what works for you, because you're going to have to put marketing behind it either way. But make sure you check the domain name's availability. And alongside the domain name, you also want to go a step further and go ahead and check for those social media availability, the handles. Make sure those are available, because if you can align your brand name or your business's name across platforms, then that's going to be helpful, and that's going to help build a stronger brand presence online. So for me, doing the research around domain name availability as well as social media handles availability go hand in hand. Those should just take part all together. But on top of that, you want to go ahead and check for the legal stuff. So go ahead and check for the trademarks, or if the business name is already in use. So you want to check this in a couple of places. Whatever state you're in, whatever city you're in, you want to see if there's another business with that same name registered within your state or your city. Now, there may be something that's named something similar, but you're in a completely different industry, so it may not matter. But you want to make sure you don't cause confusion within your city or your state as well. So make sure you check that out. But going even further, you want to check for trademarks. At the uspto.org, you want to go there, you want to look it up, because you don't want to put all of your energy and time into a brand and then you're unable to get the trademark should you want to do that down the road. There are some cases you may not need the trademark, but if someone else comes along and they get it, then that could lend to some rough patches down the road. So just making sure that you check that, see what category the person's in. And I do recommend that you check out episode 170, where I'm discussing trademarks and some of the issues that me and my guests both were having around trademarks for our businesses or our brands. So make sure you take a listen to that, as well as, again, make sure you consider the legal parts of your business name. The next thing is you want to make sure that your name is simple and clear. You want it to be easy for customers to remember, pronounce, spell. You want to avoid complex and lengthy names. For example, Allen Professional Graphics Group is a very long name. Even when I'm filling out paperwork for our business that is legal, that's related to things I need to do legally, it's very frustrating to have to write that over and over again or to type that. So think simple, think clear. You want to be concise. I love to think about names like Apple and Google, even Microsoft. I mean, those are some big names, but they're actually pretty simple names. They're easy to spell. They're clear. I also recommend you take some time to just do a little bit of market testing, asking friends or family, like, what do you think of this name? What kind of thoughts does it bring to mind when I say this name to you? And perhaps those people can give you feedback and provide some insight into the name. Because to me, just like when you're naming your kid, you want to think about the name. Does it lend to people picking on your kid, bullying your kid around their name? I feel the same way about a business name. You want to try to think ahead. You also want to be culturally sensitive when you're selecting your name, especially if you're going to go international. You want to make sure your name doesn't have a negative connotation in another language or culture. So it's a lot to think about when it comes to selecting your business name. Not that I don't want you to feel pressure around it, but it's also helpful to just make a list, start with a list, do some research on that list. And another thing you want to give thought to when it comes to your name is growth and expansion. If you name your business after you, which is fine, but think about if you want to sell your business one day. Do you want to sell your name? Perhaps in some industries, that's okay. But in others, you really may not want to sell your name. You may want to call it something else so you don't have to worry about that down the road. So I know I've said a lot here when it comes to picking a name for your business. But I want to give an example because I mentioned names being clear and not being able to be picked on. Well, it's interesting because when I was at Podfest, Libsyn, see, I can barely say it. Libsyn is a podcast host. I am not currently on that platform. However, they are a podcast host. And so I was talking to one of the reps, and as I'm talking to him, somebody walks by and makes a joke about lip sync. And he said to me, this business has been around since 2004. I wish I could go back and sit at that table and tell the person who came up with their name to not name them Libsyn, which actually stands for Liberated Syndication, but they shortened it and called it Libsyn. And he says so often people don't say it correctly, or they say it wrong, or they make a joke about it, and perhaps it's not really that big a deal. But you want to give those things some thought when you're picking the name for your business. I know I've said a lot here, and I'll give you a summary in just a little bit, but I want to go back to the top of the episode when I mentioned the quote by Meg Whitman. When people use your brand name as a verb, that is remarkable. What's interesting to me is if you think about it, there are brands that are like that. For example, Google. If you're going to look up something, you're going to Google it. Even if you're using Bing or Yahoo or whatever search engine, you still will say, I'm going to Google it. No one says I'm going to Bing it. You think of Kleenex. People will say, go get me a Kleenex. Well, technically, Kleenex is a brand. They're really getting you a tissue. But I find this so fascinating. And then Clorox. Clorox is bleach. But most people will say, make sure you pick me up some Clorox. They don't necessarily say, get some bleach. Now, there are people who are going to shop generic no matter what. But you think about it. If someone says to you, if you don't mind picking me up some Clorox, more than likely you're going to walk down the aisle and you're going to pick up Clorox. You're going to pick up Kleenex. You're going to Google it. So you see, Meg's statement is very true. It's almost like automatic marketing when your brand name becomes a verb. So not many of us have that type of thing going on with our brands, but it's pretty cool if you can have something like that going on with your brand. But in summary, I'm going to just run down the things that you want to think about. Number one, making your name relevant and memorable. Number two, you want to make sure that your brand or name of your business resonates with your target market. Number three, you want to make sure you check domain name availability. You want to also make sure, number four, that your name is simple and clear. Number five, you want to check social media handles. Number six, legal considerations. Check the trademark. Check for other businesses that are similarly named in your industry or your region or your state or your city. Do some market testing. Ask your family, your friends, your customers. If you already have customers, ask them what they think of the name of your business. You want to leave room for growth and expansion. And lastly, you want to be culturally sensitive, just in case it may be offensive in other cultures or languages, and you plan on operating in those languages or operating in those countries, then you want to take that in mind. And lastly, actually, this is the last one, it's just making sure you like your name, that you like your business name, and that you feel good about it when you say it. You like it on a business card. You like it imprinted on clothing. That's really important, because if you love the name, then you're going to be behind it. You're going to be excited about it. You're going to support it. You're going to be passionate about it. And that passion will rub off on other people. And we'll talk more down the road as we go through kickstarting your business. We're going to talk more about how a name is great, but the service that you provide behind that name is what, at the end of the day, will resonate with your customers and your clients. So we'll get into that more. But those are the things. You can go back and listen and write it all down if you want. Or you can also DM me on Instagram, and I will be happy to send you the list. And that way you don't have to write it down. I'll just send it to you. And that way you can kind of do a lovely little check box as you go through checking everything and thinking about the name of your business. Thanks for listening today and tuning in to Kickstart Your Business Part 3, What's in a Name. Be sure to take a moment to rate, subscribe, and share the podcast. You can connect with me on Instagram at Become Your Own Boss Podcast. It's also the same on TikTok. But more importantly, connect with me at the Become Your Own Boss Facebook group. The link to the Facebook group is in the show notes. I really want to use this group to support you in your business as you launch, as well as you grow your business. So the Facebook group is not just for new business owners. They're for people who've been in business for 2, 3, 4, 5 years. I'm telling you, the longer you're in business, one would think it gets easier, and it does to some degree, but it always helps to have support. And so join the Facebook group. And join me next week as we continue the Kickstart Your Business series. Next week, we're going to talk about all of the legal stuff that you need to get done to really legitimize your business. You don't want to miss that. So make sure you subscribe, and that way the podcast will always appear in queue for you. You don't have to go out and search for it. Remember, now is the time. Now is the time to level up, leave a legacy, and become your own boss.